Real True Education, not fake news, the 13th of May 2024. Time is moving on and it's wet here in Ireland today, and this is about guilt. Well, I can give my own experience about all the guilt was pumped into us. But go back a bit through history. I mean, what was the real fear that anyone had who might have a little village, maybe a man running, a little king running a small kingdom, maybe in somewhere in Poland or something like that, or maybe somewhere on the steppes of China or whatever over there in Russia. Whatever he had, it was that whatever you had, you tried to have your little community, but some crowd would come in and take all. So you get a cold day, they had no food saved, you had your food, they landed in and they just killed you and killed all belonging to you. And Genghis Khan did this. There's several examples of this brutality, and the Romans did it and all the rest. So that was the real fear. But then as we got law and order, and as you got the like of Henry VIII, now with Henry VIII and the kings in England, the one thing is, if there was somebody a threat to them or somebody raiding villages, he'd go out and he'd chop their heads off straight away. So that was kind of the way it was. And this was the way in many parts of France and other places. Now, of course, the Roman Empire took over, and it was the law and order, and it done all sorts of horrible things in my view. And that was it. And there was the pharaohs, there was the Egyptians before that. I don't know much about them. But the point about it is they all enforced some type of law. And then the Roman Empire dispersed. Now, 250 years is what they say is the normal time for an empire. And certainly that's right for the British Empire. And they say now that the American Empire is crumbling with BRICS and all that. And that it's actually in the final stages, that in about 20 years' time, the Americas that we know will not be there. There'll probably be a civil war, and there'll probably be nothing there, and it'll all be broken up into districts and all of that. That could happen. I often wondered how it became one country for starters. Anyway, it seems a bit improbable that that would have happened. But the thing about it is, anyway, that in the time of Christ, there was a type of law and order under the Roman Empire. So you got this type of religious or guilt thing coming in to the mentality. You can't have a guilty complex for your people if it's known that in a week's time there's a crowd of hoodlums coming going to kill you all. I mean, there's no point being guilty about something, about your body shape or your body parts or whatever, or having too much of a moral code if you're likely to be crushed and you're going to have to fight for your life 10 to 1 against you. So as you got a kind of law and order and that, you got the religions coming up. And you got there was a war. A lot of people don't know this. There was a battle fought in September 1260 in Palestine, in where is now Israel today, and the Muslims beat Genghis Khan. The Mongols beat them in a battle, and it was a whole long day battle, and all of this went on. But that put the Mongols to hell out of there, and there were no loss. But it was the Muslims did it. But in any event, there was a bit of law and order in Europe and all of that. And in the comfort of having law and order, that you don't have to worry about being broken into and killed, or your wife or family killed, you can begin to come up with all kinds of scare and all kinds of guilt. So you can get people to be guilty in peacetime much easier than they'll feel guilty in a wartime. You understand? Now, you can scare them also. You give them a scare 'em story. You tell them what's going to happen to them when they die or when they don't die or whatever. And so there's a whole business around guilt and scare and fear and putting fear into people. So then all I can do is move forward to my own era brought up in post-independence Ireland, in where, well, we had one fear during the Second World War, was that of invasion by Germany and maybe possibly by Britain, and we got over that. So the next thing then was we moved on then, and we moved into the very strong Catholic era in Ireland, where very, very strong Catholicism was the order of the day, and it was counteracted up in the northern part of the country by very, very strong fundamental Protestantism. Protestantism. In any event, they all had the fire and brimstone and the hell and the Bible and hell flames, and oh, they're going to hell, and I don't like you, you're going to hell, and I hate you, and you're going to hell, and God on our side, and all of this went on. And so we had all this fear and guilt then about sexuality, which reproduces the species. We had mainly the Catholic Church, I'd say the Protestant churches did it too, taking the babies of young women and scandalizing everyone. And you had a nod father that wouldn't let his pregnant daughter be taken away by the church, and you had others that wouldn't let them to be taken away, and you had this cruelty going on, and all of this in the name of shame and guilt. See, so anyway, as I come up through this, we saw in 1963 there was a real threat of a Cuban Missile Crisis. And my attitude to it as a young friend, I was young, I went to school and they were all about it on the radio. And Charles Mitchell was on the RTE News at 9 o'clock one night, and he said it could be the end of the world. And I laughed my head off, and my father laughed because bloody Jesus. What? And so there you had it, end of the world in RTE in 1963. And I went to school, and only one boy was crying. There was one boy crying that he wouldn't get home to see his mother. We didn't give two tuppenny damns. All we wanted was to get a penny, to buy a penny bar down in the shop, a penny toffee. And that was it. And an old cold bottle of milk, and a tomato sandwich, or whatever you carried in with you. 3 miles I had to walk to school. So we're getting this thing, and I was in the local band blowing into a mouth organ and all of this. And we were different with care and all of that. And then we went on from there. But the next thing came on the job anyway was the nuclear thing died out, and everyone wondered what it was all about. And the media was trying to push it on us. They were giving us iodine tablets, and they were giving everything. So the next thing came in was global cooling. Oh, we're going to freeze. So there was that, and then there was AIDS. Sure, yeah, it could kill you if you got it, and it was a dangerous disease. And so there was some degree of warning there. Give you the best advice. Dr. Rory O'Hanlon, the Fianna Fáil Minister for Health, said one faithful partner was the answer. So fair enough. The next thing we had, that was the AIDS scare in the late 90s. Big wheelabaloo, sold plenty of newspapers. The next thing we had was the dot-com bubble, another bottle of smoke, more media, RTE, BBC, pushing a load of baloney. Well, then we got the Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, and they had something now. Now they were ashamed of burning fuel. Now they had guilt with burning fuel. Now the whole world we inherited with cars and trains and transport, airplanes and all, was to be ashamed of. And so they began to tell us there was global warming, and when that didn't work, they changed it to climate change. And Al Gore said the polar ice caps would be gone in 2015, that never were stronger than they are today. There may be some minor warming due to natural processes. We had a mini ice age in 1500, and it's still coming out of that. There is also the danger of a major ice age at some stage in the future. Nobody talks about that either. Everyone seems to know not only what the future weather will be, but they know how they can change it, and particularly if they're politicians like Eamon Cabbagehead Ryan and Catherine Martin of the Green Party. Voting for them will change the weather in 100 years' time. This is what they tell us. In any event, we have attacked the green thing, and there were out there windmills which failed, which are a failure, which are illegal, and slowly but surely they're all going bankrupt. And we're all told that Germany with 61,000 megawatts of wind energy was saved, and then Putin turned off the gas, and Germany is in the doldrums, and its economy is gone to hell, and they've closed down their nuclear power stations. Germany never does anything, never makes small mistakes. They are the greatest crowd of idiots. They are idiots in every way. Somebody posted there under a video, did they start the First World War? Well, they didn't win it anyway, and they certainly had a big part in starting the Second World War, although the circumstances leading up to it may not have been that wise. I feel in 10 or 15 years without Hitler at all, a lot of those problems would have been solved, but that's all a matter of conjecture. So anyway, they have flogged the climate change to death. We now have a situation where the hegemony, in other words, the dominance of the American dollar, is now directly threatened. They began to seize Russia's money, and nobody can invest money with them. And so slowly but surely, nobody's investing in them. They have 34 trillion in debt. Their banks are in very dire circumstances in America. So it would look to me, even with Trump coming back, which is quite an if, that America is on its decline stage. It'll probably all be gone. I don't know. But Europe will probably survive. Whether the EU will or not is another story. But China and Russia is bombing on militarily. North Korea has more weapon production than Europe has. It is totally and utter nuts. They've condemned young men and women to tell them you must not be engineers. You must not get your hands dirty. You must not use electricity that uses fossil fuel that will kill you with climate change. And all of this, you must not have a car with an internal combustion engine, and you must not learn how to fix them. So they told us all this and making everyone guilty about this, a load of horse manure. The whole damn thing needs to be thrown out. But there's another now scare. The latest scare now is, Russia. We better watch Russia. Because the Russians is coming. They're coming. They're coming. They caused the Ukraine, you know that. Most of the Ukraine always belonged to Russia, as did the Crimea. They're losing there. So the thing about it is, there's a letter here by Rishi Sunak. He's made a statement in the Daily Mail. Britain will see almost every aspect of their life changes over the next 5 years as the country enters one of the most dangerous eras, the Prime Minister will warn. See? Scare him. Scare him. Hear him, scare him. In a major speech, there's nothing major about Rishi Sunak. He's a dire idiot. An idiot. Rishi Sunak will say he feels profound sense of urgency to tackle the threats facing the nation. Now, 2 years ago, it's climate change. Climate change, urgent. Urgent. It's urgent. Now, facing the nation, while also seizing on the opportunities to build a better future. So he's going to build a better future. He took over Brexit. He went mad woke. He went mad green. He destroyed the British economy. He made none of the advances. He's a bought and paid for man. The politics of England is bought and paid for by big business. That fella that was in charge of Scotland, Yuma, is that the lad? Do you know that he's a Muslim fella? He actually dumped the whole green thing out a month, and he was gone in a month. He was gone in less than a month. Liz Truss dumped it out, and she was gone. So there's somebody big pulling the strings that nobody is prepared to stand up to. Nobody's prepared to stand up to. Rapid advances in technology, a global rise in immigration. What has he done about it? How could a country that kept Hitler down, how could it fail to stop migration coming across in rubber dinghies? The dirty idiot, right? And authoritarian states. Well, Britain should have been a democratic state. It should have complied with EU law when it was in the EU law, as Ireland did, on its old stupid renewable energy project. But it didn't do it because it's an authoritarian state too. So Mr. Sunak will say, but while warning of the dangers, the PM will set an outline of bold ideas. Imagine using the words bold ideas with Rishi Sunak to capitalise on the opportunities presented by the ever-increasingly interconnected world. Well, the ever-increasing interconnected world is that China and Russia are running the show. They are understood to include using advances in artificial intelligence. I think that's a load of crap. I think you don't need it at all, except in very small areas. Certainly in military hardware, yes, I'd agree with it there. And artificial and biotech, turning them into a force for good, as well as looking outside the box for solutions for mass migration. Outside the box. The dirty idiot to look outside the box to stop migration. I'd stop migration into Ireland in 3 weeks by giving the order. Walk down and face down the lefties. That's the first thing you have to do. Such as the Rwanda stream. Why did he let them in and then go to send them to Rwanda? Look at them coming here. Look at these poor unfortunate migrants. Look at them. Anyway, that's enough of that fella. That's enough of that fella. he's talking to about Russia, the Russians now speaking in central London will set forth a path which he believes will create more prosperous and secure future. He believes that nobody else does, and they're handing it over to the Labour Party, and you might as well let them do it because he's not going to do any different anyway. He's bought over and paid for, or he's a dope. He's running his old baloney climate codology, and it's going to kill every country that goes for it. Now we look at something else here. So it boils down to no government in the West is in control of anything. The Biden administration is flooding the United States with migrants, could be from the Russian Wagner group, for all he knows. So all of this thing about guilt and fear is baloney, and the latest fear is that the Russians are going to arrive in to Britain. I wouldn't get too worried about it. I know there are people who tell me we should be in NATO because the Russians might invade here, and they might. And even if they do, what are we going to do? I mean, okay, the Americans and the British would probably fight. They wouldn't want Ireland to be a stepping stone for Russia. But personally, it could be argued that if we had Russia running our country, we would get our fish back. The EU grants for farmers we're net consumers to the EU, so we can pay them ourselves. So personally, I'm not going to worry. If the Russian troops come up the field there, I'll try and have a bottle of vodka, and I'll try and introduce them to Irish whiskey instead and make them a cup of tea or coffee or whatever. I'm not going to get into a heap. I was put into a heap in 1963 with the Russians and the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm still here. I've been scared and attempts to make me guilty. I'm not guilty about anything. I'm guilty about nothing that happened to me or that I did. I can stand over every act I did. Others may have committed cruelty, murders and all of that, including the Provisional IRA, of which Sinn Féin was evolved from politically. And a lot of that happens, and I feel guilty about the abortion of perfectly healthy babies in Dublin. I think it's something like 6,000 a year. I don't like that. I feel bad about it, but that's been pushed by my government as well. So here, the thing is, I couldn't give two damns about what Putin or Xi Jinping or Xi Jinping or whoever to do. I don't care. I hate to see people suffering under communist regimes like Kim Jong-il and all of that. I don't like to see that. But in any event, I believe once you have the immediate pressures of humanity, someone will come on with a harem scarum. And what I recommend the Irish people and the British people do is tell them to get to hell away. Go to hell with your goddamn climate change. Breach Smith, the independent one in Dublin, now looking to be a European councillor, you take your transition to energy and hump to hell off and don't be heard of again. And a lot of them go over and fix RTE. And go over and see, can you build a children's hospital? A crowd of incompetent, wasting villains. How they can get their hands on power, I don't know. No more guilt, no more scarum. We don't owe anybody anything. We earn anything we have. It's we, the Irish, and the Irish are going to be number one, and the Irish will be first. And we'll face down and beat off all these lefty, junky creeps that are trying to make decisions, and we'll see RTE put out of Montrose and moved up to a greenfield site if they're not totally disbanded in Ballycoolan in Dublin. They're there every morning preaching about this climate. Give me a thumb up or a thumbs down, as if listening to RTE is going to affect the weather in 50 years.